All right. Oh, thank you. Well, good morning. I'm going to steal Tim's podium here. Well, glad to see all of you. Hey, how about the music this morning, huh? That's pretty good. Alec is a guy playing bass for us. Thank you, Alec. Real quick, we're going to just do a fun thing. I thought about this last night, especially given the Olympics. Pop question. Can anyone quote John 3:16? Okay, go for it.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him will not perish but will have everlasting life.
All right, everyone, there we go. You know what you've won? You've won some Shaun White chewing gum. But don't choke, okay? Don't choke. Do you get it? Because he choked? No, okay, it's not as funny when you explain it, I guess. But what's that? I heard so. It did last night when I saw it. I'm like, oh, this is a great joke. Anyways, Jonathan, yeah, I'm the funniest person in the world when I tell him jokes. But, glad you all are here. Real quick, I just want to cover a couple of things. You may see in your little handout there that one of the things I'm going to start doing soon is pizza with the pastor, not pastor with the pizza. You may look at it that way if pizza's more your thing than the pastor. But yeah, that's right. Yeah, I am not a topping, I assure you. But basically what we're going to be doing is I just want to get together with some of you, and all of you really, and just take some time, let you know some more about Epic's future, where we're going, and how you could be a part of it. And so if you've got time to make, come talk to me. And if you don't, I'm going to come find you. So it's very important. I'd like to develop more of our relationship together and give you a feel for where we're going. Just so you know, we set up a vision a couple weeks ago, right? We said we were going to go from 52 to 75 people, from $4,500 in offering a month to $6,000, from everyone not doing something in the church to everyone doing something in the church. And then also we were going to have 5 baptisms. We had 2 until that point. Now we're going to go for 5. Well, January's numbers came in, and you all went an offering from $4,500 not just to $6,000, but to $6,700. So that's worth it. That's good. That's good. And we need to keep that up because that helps us to have a bigger part in the kingdom. It allows us to do more. It allows us to go further in our ministries. But that still means that we have 3 other of those goals that we haven't met yet, right? We still got to get up to 75. We still have to baptize 5 people, and we still have to get more involvement. And let me talk to you about just a couple ways you could get involved. One, we are having, in February, we're going to do a teacher appreciation. We're going to go into some of our schools here in Wichita, Andover area, and we're going to just serve them some donuts and breakfast items and snacks just to tell them thank you for taking care of our kids. And so if you've got some time during the day especially where you could go and do that. Issy's not here right now. She's helping someone move, but Bill is here, and I'm sure they would love to talk to you about that. In March, we're going to do an outreach over at Hartman Arena for the Wichita Wild. Taiwan, our local celebrity, world famous running back for the Wichita Wild. He's going to be playing, and we're going to go as a church to support him, but we're also going to go out there and try to do a little bit of an outreach, maybe a tailgate in the parking lot. And then in April, we're going to do an Easter egg hunt. Right now, I'm working with the YMCA to work out the details of that, but we're hoping that we'll be able to use their facility, and we want to just throw one of the best Easter egg hunts we can for our community, just to let them know that we care and to let them know about God's love. And so those are some things that are coming up. Those are great ways to be able to reach out, bring people in, but you could also do it in your own life and in the community circles that you're in your work. The people you know, you can make a difference there. So, but good job, guys. That's definitely worth praising. You guys have been doing great. It's amazing what we can do when we work together as a church. A couple months ago, we were doing our hot chocolate outreach. I'm sure you all remember that. It wasn't that long ago. On Thanksgiving night leading up to Black Friday, we go and we serve hot chocolate to the people out there standing in line. They're waiting to buy gifts for their family. They're freezing. We just give them something warm to drink. And this last year, we handed out over 700 cups of hot chocolate. 700 people were reached through Epic. And we did it all for free. And I love that about you guys because it's always about other people. How do we help other people? And we'd give out some information about Epic for anyone who was looking, but they didn't have to take the information in order to get something warm to drink. It was just available for them. But I remember as I was handing out hot chocolate and some information, a lady reached out and she grabbed the hot chocolate from me, and then she put her hand in my face to stop me from giving her any information about our church. And she said, "I don't want your information. I have a church, I love my church, and you're not going to get me to leave my church to go to your church." Okay. You know what I felt? I felt like we were out there keeping people warm, and that she was chastising me for that. The way she talked to me was like she thought I would steal candy from a baby or kick a puppy. And I would never kick a puppy. It was like she thought that her church and our church were competitors, that we were rivals, that we were enemies. I was feeling really good up until that moment. But I said to her, I'm glad you have a church, but I do not want to steal you. We're just trying to serve people. I want your church to be successful. I want our church to be successful because if we're successful, then that means that people are being won to Jesus. I said, we're on the same team, but she kept looking at me like she couldn't trust me, and that really frustrated me. Not really the ingratitude that was going on over the hot chocolate, but that she thought that we were a threat to her and to her church. It was like a football game I watched where this guy was running for a touchdown, and I watched, and his own teammate tackled him. He had caught the ball. It was a kickoff. He caught the ball. He was running, and one of his own guys just drills him. And it's just like, wait, you're worried about if I score? We're on the same team. I don't care if I score or you score, we score. Why do you think that happens? Why do you think when people are doing good, there is a natural wariness that happens about those people, especially from people who are on the same team? Why do we naturally believe that they've done something wrong? Think about it. At work, if someone else gets a promotion, what do we do? Well, that they don't make time for their family like I do. That's why they got that promotion. Or they somehow cheated to get where they are. If someone gets a pretty sweet deal on a car or a house, we feel ripped off about ours, we have to find little ways to tear them down. Well, yeah, you got a good deal, but it's not that nice of a car. It's not that nice of a house. And in churches we do this too. It's the sad part of the story I told you? Is it's not a new story. It's not a new story. It's not the first time a Christian has felt threatened by another church. Plenty of churches compete with each other, and plenty of churches get threatened by the success of other churches. And they may say things like, well, they have numbers, but they don't teach the right things. Or, oh, they may be growing, but they don't love like we do. And truth be told, I'd love to say that I'm always above that stuff. I would love to say that I'm always above that. But there are times I catch myself in the same threatened state of mind. What is it that drives us to undermine the good things people do? Why is it that we feel threatened by people's success? Why is it that we are so quick to make enemies? Now, we've been studying the life, the story, the the epic of Jesus. And we're about 2 years into the ministry of Jesus, and we're going to be in Mark chapter 9. But before we go there, let me set some of the background. You see, Jesus had these 12 guys who followed them everywhere, and they were called disciples. Good. And he had handpicked them to be his messengers and essentially to begin the church. And one day they come to Jesus and they have a kid with them that is demon possessed. And they have tried everything that they know how to do to heal this boy, and they can't do it. The kid is convulsing and they've done everything they know how to do. And so they bring this kid to Jesus and Jesus heals him. And they don't really understand why they couldn't do it. After all, Jesus had handpicked them to set up the church, didn't he? And so they're going along, and what we read is in Matthew 9:38, it says that John said to him, "Teacher, we saw someone casting out demons in your name, and we tried to prevent him because he was not following us." And so what happened was the disciples, they see a guy traveling who can cast out demons. Now, just as a side note, 99.9% of the time when you see demons talked about in the Bible, when it says someone could cast out demons, 99% of the time, there is more than one demon in a person. Most times when it says someone's demon possessed, there are multiple demons in them. There's the Gerasene demoniac. He has a demon in him called Legion, and he says, "For we are many." Mary Magdalene, who a lot of people think was a prostitute, she wasn't. Bible never says she was a prostitute. You know what it does say? It does say that she had 7 demons in her at one point before Jesus healed her. So just as a biblical side note, when you see demon possession, understand that it's usually more than one. So this guy is able to cast out many demons, right? And the disciples get mad at him. They say he needs to quit casting out demons. Now let's look at that, because there's a couple reasons why. And it's not because the disciples have had to change their heart towards demons. You know, they didn't become demon-hugging hippies. They aren't saying, well, you know, maybe the demons are just misunderstood. You know, we maybe if we talk to them, we reconcile our differences, we'll all go home and we'll be okay. It's not because of the man's faith, because they said he was doing it in whose name? Jesus' name. Like he's not out there, well, Buddha says. He's saying Jesus. He is right in line with Jesus and who Jesus is and what Jesus teaches. But there's a couple of reasons why they don't like it. For one, it was because he was able to cast out demons. I just talked about the disciples had failed, right? They brought a boy. They couldn't cast it out of a boy. And here's this guy, and he's not just casting out one demon. He's casting out a bunch of demons. The 12 were handpicked by Jesus. They physically followed him everywhere. What gave this guy the right to do what they couldn't? And so the disciples don't like that he is successful where they have failed. But 2, the problem is he's not following them. Did you catch that? He's not following us. Just remind me, who do we follow? Jesus. We follow Jesus. And what the disciples have done, they've taken away the ministry of Jesus. It's no longer about him. It's about them. Jesus responds in verse 39 to 41. He says, "Do not hinder him, for there is no one who will perform a miracle in my name and be able soon afterward to speak evil of me. For he who is not against us is for us. For whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because of your name as followers of Christ, truly I say to you, he will not lose his reward." I want us to focus on verse 40. He who is not against us is for us, because the wording of that's important. It's worded a little different than you normally hear it, right? Normally it's like those who aren't with us are against us, but here it's those who aren't against us are with us, are for us. And there's a big difference between the way that you can read those statements. People who think anyone not for them is against them think about everyone else as their enemy. They think of anyone who is not directly supporting them as an obstacle to their mission, to their life, and what they do. They are barriers, but people who think anyone not against them is for them looks at everyone as potential friends. People cannot be with us and still be for us unless they put themselves in opposition to us. Then they're not our enemies. What they do can still help us accomplish our mission in its own way. But when we compare those two ideas, those not for us are against us, and those not against us are for us, which one do we sometimes fall into? Do we look at people not a part of us as our friends, or do we look at people not a part of us as our enemies? And I think there's two answers to that. I think there's the right answer, the Bible Sunday school answer that we're supposed to give. And then I think there's the truth. And I think sometimes, not always, sometimes we're more prone to make enemies than friends. We're more prone to be threatened than to be encouraged. Why is that? Why are we so quick to make enemies out of friends? Well, for one, it could be because we're intimidated. We get intimidated by someone else's success. This is especially true when we meet someone who is better at something that we feel we're good at. Have you ever had that person, especially you feel like you're really good at something, and then you meet someone and they're better? I can't stand that. I had a roommate in Bible college, real good guy. He was athletic. He was smart. He could play any instrument. He picked up a saxophone and could play it perfectly within a 3-week period of time. He was that guy. He could sing. He played like 9 instruments. And that was all fine with me because I've never really had many aspirations for music. But then I heard him preach and teach, and you know something? He was better than me. And to top it all off, that jerk was a nice guy. You know what I mean? There were times I wanted to prove that I could keep up, and then there were times I didn't even want to be around because he was so good at everything. But that's what happens when we get intimidated. We either go into hiding or we get territorial to protect what good we think we have left. Others are a threat to us. Another reason we can be quick to make enemies is we get jealous. We see people who are successful and we think, you know what? Look at her. She always gets what she wants and it seems so easy for her. I will never be like her. And so in jealousy, we try to tear people down. We find reasons that they're successful to excuse why we're not. Well, he makes more money because he doesn't spend time with his kids. Or we or we find reasons why people aren't as good as they appear. Well, he can cast out a demon, but he's not with us. Jesus didn't choose him. Jesus chose us. But the real reason we get intimidated or jealous of others is because we make what we do about us and not about Jesus. Remember what John said. He is not following us. He's not in the right place. He's not with the right people. They were intimidated because they were worried about themselves, their own position, their own standing. And that happens with us. When it's about us, we get worried about what will happen to us. A new church comes or shows up or does something great, and people are like, whoa, batten down the hatches. We got to preserve what's ours. From what? From what? When it's about us, we get too worried about our attendance, what the other church is doing, if the other church is doing something, quote, wrong. And even within a church, people can get threatened by each other. Churches will make enemies of each other. And the last I read, my enemy is not a church. Pop quiz. Maybe this is where the Shaun White should have came in. Pop quiz. Who's our enemy? Satan, right? The devil. It's not flesh and blood, right? It's the devil. Do you know what devil means? It means the enemy. We have a guy who we literally call the enemy every time we talk about him. The enemy, the enemy, the enemy. And then we look around and say, the enemy. Why does that make any sense at all? We have a guy who we literally call the enemy every time we mention him, and we worry about how other churches are fighting him. So what can we do? How can we keep our attention where it needs to be? How do we stop intimidation and jealousy from ruining our relationships? And for starters, it starts with Jesus. We have to keep our focus, our attention on him. Churches that are focused on Jesus and his mission are not at war in themselves and with other churches. Did you get that? Churches that are on a mission don't fight with each other. Their focus is in the right place. Christians focused on Jesus aren't constantly looking at what's wrong with people. They're constantly trying to see how God is using them and others to move the mission of Jesus forward. This might mean that we need to spend more time in prayer and reading Scripture to develop more of our relationship with Jesus. If my spirituality is threatened by others, do you know what that really shows? It shows that my relationship with Jesus is not where it needs to be. If someone can just come in and shake it, I must not have had a whole lot there. Another thing to do, look at people around you as partners in the mission instead of competitors. We're on the same team. Other churches are on the same team. We're on the same team. We all want Jesus to be glorified, don't we? Don't we? I would hope so. I was on a plane ride back from a conference with another pastor once, and I started up a conversation with, I was in the middle, I started up a conversation with the lady sitting to my right, and we began to talk about Jesus, and the other pastor jumped in, which was good, but he took over. He just took over the whole conversation. She didn't really have anything to say anymore. I didn't have anything to say anymore. And anytime I tried to chime into the conversation to see what maybe this lady had to say, to see where her thoughts were, where the conversation was going, it was like he just had to shut me down. No, I don't want David to say anything because he's going to ruin this. He's going to mess this up. I was in the way of what he was saying because he was trying to make a sale. Let me tell you, this is not about getting another notch on the belt. This is not about, can I get one more for me so I could say, wow, I really out-argued this person or shut this person down or I really put this person in their place. This is about people. This is about people. Jesus didn't die to get another notch on the belt. He's God. He's got all the notches. Okay? This is about people. And people mattered enough to God that he would come and die for them. I matter enough to God that God would come and die for me. They matter enough to God that God would come and die for them. I don't care if I win them, you win them, they win them, the guy on the plane wins them. I don't care who wins them. I just care that we win them. My wins are your wins. Your wins are my wins. Their wins are our wins. Our wins are their wins. One more thing to remember. Everyone has something good to bring to the table. Jesus said in Mark 9:41, "For whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because of your name as followers of Christ," not your name, right? But as your name as followers of Christ, "truly I say to you, he will not lose his reward. It doesn't matter if you can cast out demons or all you've got is a cup of water to spare. Water's pretty cheap, isn't it? It's free. It doesn't matter if you've got these amazing talents or all you got is just a little. It doesn't matter. The water boy matters just as much as the quarterback on God's team. The value of what you do is not in the act. It's in your heart. And anything you do from the heart for Jesus, Jesus says that God is going to honor. I don't care how big it is. I don't care how small it is. God is going to honor that. And anything anyone else does from the heart for Jesus, God is going to honor that. So who are we when God is going to honor those people? Who are we to tear them down? Let's value what we can do for others, and let's value what others can do for Jesus. Because we're all in this together. We're all on the same team. We all want people to know Jesus. We're going to take communion now, and this is one of my favorite times. Because in communion, there are Christians all over the world, millions of people, millions of churches all over the world who are joining together right now. Not just as individuals taking communion, but as the body of Christ. And when we take communion, I'm not just taking communion by myself. I may go up to the table by myself. I may eat the bread myself. I may drink the cup myself, but I am not alone. When I take communion, I am a part of a body that is working together for the common goal of Jesus being glorified and making his name known. Paul says in taking communion, we as a body proclaim his death until he comes. And so this isn't about us as individuals just working on our relationship with God. That's in there. But this is about our team. And so as Tim plays, I want you to think about how you can be a part of the team. How you can play a part in moving the mission forward. And when you've prayed and you're ready, then we ask that you come up, that you take some of the bread, take some of the grape juice, and that you spend some time with Jesus and the body. If you're here today and you've never done that, if you've never given your life to Jesus, if you don't know what any of this stuff means, you think we're just having snack time in church, that's fine. But we want to talk to you about why we do this. We want you to know about Jesus and why we take the body and the blood. And we want you to know who he is, because we want you to experience the love and the power and the mercy and the grace and the forgiveness that is in him. And so if you want to know Jesus, you can come talk to me, or you saw the connection cards. You have them right here. There's a pen on it. Feel free. You know, sometimes if you have your kids in here, it's great for them to draw on these things. But for the adults, this is a good tool for you to use. If you want to know more about our church, if you have something that you'd like for us to pray for, or if you would like to give your life to Jesus, but you would like to talk to someone, just fill one of these out and drop it in one of the baskets by the communion table. Also, that's a good place for you to put your offering. I know we hit our mark. That doesn't mean we're done. We got to keep moving forward. We got a lot more to do. We have a lot more lives to touch, and Wichita has a lot of people who don't have Jesus. And so pray as you consider your offering. But I'm going to pray. And whatever's on your heart, wherever God is leading you, use this time. Take this time to know where you stand. And when you're ready, come forward and take communion. Let's pray. Father in heaven, you are just awesome. You are good. And there's nothing that we do that deserves any of it. And God, I thank you for your son, Jesus. And I thank you for him that while we were your enemy, that you sent your son to die for us so we could be your friend. And I'll never understand that. But I'm glad that you did it. And God, as we continue in our mission of trying to win people to Jesus, of trying to reach people for your name, help us to make friends out of enemies. Help us to lay aside our pride, our jealousy, and to lift up your Son.